great if this is your first time here to my channel. I am Michelle. Welcome to my home. You are in one of my grow rooms where I keep my warm, loving orchids and occasionally another plant or two that's not an orchid. It's also where I'm trying to start my seeds to get them growing so I can plant them soon when spring shows up. On my channel, I talk about orchids a lot, but I also talk about my chronic illnesses because primarily, I am a person with multiple chronic illnesses and you can't just ignore them. They are part of your everyday life, and I yet try to distract myself from them by playing with my orchids, watering them, fiddling with them, looking at them. And so I encourage you, if you know someone who has a chronic illness, to have them come on by, take a looky-loo and see what's going on here in my orchid room, and maybe it will encourage them to get a hobby. This hobby of mine I started about 2.5 years ago when my husband brought home an orchid from work. It was near death, and I thought, oh, I'll try my best to save it. And how I went about learning about orchids is by watching YouTube videos, tons of them on the internet. There are so many great creators out there that make YouTube videos about orchids, about plants, about tropical plants, about succulents, about anything you want to learn about. It is a great tool, and that is how I learned, and I am still learning. And I think the first year I killed a lot, and the second year they tried to recover from my over loving them, and this is going into my 3rd season, and I am finally seeing some roots. Yes. So I am cheering on those roots as I go about watering. I am astounded that they're coming out of winter rest, some of my dendrobiums, and they have roots that they want to grow. So it makes my heart feel good in a time and in a season when everything else seems to be falling apart. An orchid gives me a new root and it cheers me right up. The other day when I was watering, I noticed some of my orchids needed fresh moss because it had been 1.5 years or so, and it was getting a little tired. And when I removed, cleaned up, and looked at things, I saw new growth and new roots, and I thought, finally, I haven't killed everything in my orchid room. And some of you ask, how do you, do all that? But when you see these beautiful things, a lot of them come beautiful to you from the store or from the vendor that you ordered them, and you do your best to just keep them going. The latest and greatest orchid in my orchid room was one I debuted the other day, and I call her Lorraine. She is the Phalaenopsis up top there that has them pinkish tones to it, and that she's named after my mama, and she's doing well. That is her new position. I'm going to double check how this looks. I have my Mars light up. It's the square one that you see, and then my husband installed in that little fixture, he twisted in a grow bulb, and we tried the lower priced one. I think it was $20 US dollars to screw that in, and it is now hitting the 3rd shelf with the overflow of a little bit more light on the spectrum for growing. It just spreads it out a little bit further, and I'm able to get more top shelf loving high orchids that love the highlight. And I will bring her closer so we can look at her. Here is little Miss Lorraine. I say little because my mama is a little lady, but she's a gorgeously big orchid. And I upped her pot and put a bunch of holes in the pot for aeration. She was in a small, medium-sized pot. I can't remember the dimensions. And everything looked really healthy in her roots, so I really just kind of picked her up, moved her over, put her down, and put more bark and more moss around her, and gave her lots of air vents. And hopefully I won't have to change her pot for another 2 years or more. I can replace the media on the top if it gets old. But that's what I did with little Miss Lorraine. She does indeed have long, long leaves. And she's liking the Mars line up top. Let me put her down on the table so that I can check if she needs some water today. Just a moment. One of my viewers, Mr. Michael McCarthy, pointed out that the Mars light that I got might be a little too powerful for the closeness and the small space that the plants are in, the red and the blue lights specifically. And he cautioned me to watch out for little white spots on the leaves, which means that I can't remember the exact word of it, but if you see the white spots on the leaves, then the light is too powerful and the plants are too close. And so far, haven't had any issues with the Mars light. I do keep it on. Someone asked in another group I was in, they asked, how long do you leave your indoor lights on? And my answer was, from whenever I wake up to whenever I remember to turn them off, because I don't like the timer that we have at the house. It goes tick, 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 tick. I know there are digital ones. We just haven't upgraded to that in our future. We might do that. But anyway, I plug her in and she probably gets anywhere from 8 to 10 or 11 hours depending on the day. You know, and like I said, it's been a rough week. So I have neglected this room for 3 days, and that is why I need to come in here and check everything. But the Mars light, it's working really great. I'm really glad that I got that. I don't seem to think that things are burning. The seedlings that I put up there, let me grab them. You remember I started some seedlings, and we put this bigger one down. And these were flowers. They are taking a longer time to do their thing. The last row I planted late. I didn't plant it at the same time as the rest, just because I wanted to stagger some. But it looks like some of them are coming through. Whoops, sorry if you can't see that. Some of them are popping up. Others are taking their sweet, sweet time, and that's okay. And these were the burpee plastic card containers that you lift them out and they're rubber underneath. That they go squish, squish, and it's really easy to pop out the seeds. And then you fill that with water. It's got enough moisture. I filled it up there this morning and it's soaked up all of that. I do have a heat mat that every once in a while I put it on. My little bell peppers, they're growing. I've got 2 plants going in each little square section. I have a habanero hot pepper, a purple beauty bell pepper, and an orange sun bell pepper. And they look like they're liking their life here on the shelf. So hopefully, fingers crossed, spring will come soon and we can plant them in their containers outside when it's appropriate. I wanted to show you this beauty. I got her sometime last year on one of my unboxing videos. I'm going to have to go back and find out which one, but she is the one that gave me such a tickle this week when I checked on her. I don't have the name tag because they were switched or dropped. It's my fault. Not that they didn't come with it, but she has got so much going. So she just got some water, and I just wanted to give you an up close of some of the life things going on inside of her. So I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can see inside the roots. But here is her new stem and pseudo bulb that's growing, her new life. Tons of roots. She's got these up here that she has been maturing all winter long. Very excited for her. So I hope you can see all that beauty. I did pull off some of the moss that was just lightly on top of her, but she's got like 5 or 6 new roots growing there, and they're going down into the soil, I call it the soil, the media. She's got new life here and over here. She's got a new shoot, there's maybe a root coming from right there. And on the back side, you really can't see. It's just better on this angle. But she's got a lot of new life, and that just makes me so tickled pink. So tickled pink. Let me pack her back in. Put those roots back under the moss. Yeah, that's the most frustrating thing, is when you lose the tag and you don't, I've never seen them bloom yet. She was too small to bloom last year. So this will be her first year that I get to see her bloom. Let's check out some of the other plants that are on that top shelf. Again, I think I lost my labels, so I'll have to go back and find them. But deep down inside, before I water her, let's see if you can find, there's that new there is a new root coming. Let me see if I can find her. Where are you, peekaboo? Let's see. Ah, she's way down here. Off of this new shoot that she started last year, she's down under bottom of that one. Let's see, there it is. Woohoo! She is growing, so I am excited, and she has that little sheath, but I don't think it will produce anything this year. It looks kind of flat to me. Nothing in it, but I just leave her alone, give her some water this morning, and make sure you put them back in the spot that they were used to. They love to be in their same spot. This beast, the only reason she's in this massive crock is because she's so unwieldy. Is that the word? She's so spindly. She's got her arms going all these different directions. And I have her, she's really just in this pot with some stakes attached to the side. And she is a RLC Dick Smith Paradise. And when she blooms, she hasn't for me yet, she will be smelling beautiful. Let's see, so we have the new root, the new shoot here, but it's kind of browned up in the middle here at the top. So I don't know if you can see that. She's browned up on the outside and in the middle, but she's continuing to stay green on the top. So I don't know what will become of her. If you peek on the inside, I'll see if I can get her, this one, in a good angle. See that? She's growing. Got more life coming out of the middle there. And I think that is the only active thing growing in the middle. So let me give her some water. She's got new roots down under all this moss. I checked them the other day before I put some fresh moss on top. And before I put her back, I'll reach the one that's behind her. This one is a pot Shinfong orange. It's a cross between a Ruth, sorry, not Ruth, RTH. I'll have to look up that. Shinfong Little Sun cross with Windy Valentine. What a fun name, huh? And she has this sheath growing in the middle. My stick's in the way here. If you can see that. That is her newest growth. She has not flowered for me, but inside you see the dry stubby parts. That tells me she at one point either made a sheath and flowered, or I'm trying to get you to see the inside, but that sticks in the way. That little brown spot, she has flowered before. So maybe this spring, fingers crossed, we'll get a beautiful orange flower. Let's give her a drink. I put most of my orchids that I know are big, gonna grow big, or they're heavy, like the cattleyas. I put them in pots that are bigger than what they need, but I put big heavy rocks at the bottom so that it can still drain, but it counterbalances the heaviness. So she's got rocks, she's got some sphagnum moss around the top, and a little mixed through the bark that's still dripping. So she has perlite bark and a little bit of moss, and then moss around the top for the new roots that shoot out. Let's put her back. Same position if I can remember. That will be fun to see an orange flower. This goes back there. Let me show you my two Orchids that I unboxed for you guys. Remember the Orchids? She had two arms that came out, two little, I call them arms, but you know they're not. They're spikes with blooms at the end of them, and they are gone now. But she is growing, continuing to grow her roots. I can see deep down in there, she's got more roots growing. I don't see, oh, I do see some on the side here. So they didn't die. They seem to be strong, but I hopefully won't unpot her for another year to know for certain, unless she goes downhill. But she has got a new growth coming from the top there. This one was the Orchids Quinquevu Neris, Quinquevu, Quinquevu. I do not know my Latin languages. Neris, Neris. And I'll give her some water. And the companion that I bought at the same time, this one is Orchids Ordata, and she's doing just fine also. She did not come with a spike or a bloom or anything for me. She did come with this yellow leaf, lightly yellowed, and it's slowly becoming fully yellow. That's okay. That's her oldest leaf. And it looks like she is absorbing it, and when it is done, it'll just fall off and form a seal, and that way bacteria doesn't get in. If you rip them off early, you really need to seal the place where she came off of the stem with cinnamon. But she's got her roots going down. There's some in the back side here. And they like that top shelf with the light. So I'm going to give them some water and then put them back up. I just wanted to encourage you, and because we're all at different places on this journey of orchids. Some of you watch this and you go, I know all that crap she's talking about. And I'm like, awesome. You know it, and you've passed that knowledge on, and you've helped me to learn it. But I have some friends that say, what do I do and how do I do this? So I'm showing you and showing them. The roots were gray and watered them. They turned green. That's a nice, healthy root. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And those ones at the bottom, they greened up with a pale green. Notice the color changed from that white. They are doing well. A lot of you will ask me, how do I know when to water my orchids, especially Phalaenopsis, because I got them at the grocery store and I really just don't know. I've got a water puddle down here I'm wiping up. A lot of you will ask me, how do I know when to water my orchid or my mama? I'll go check on her and visit with her, and I'll say, Mama, your orchids need more water. And she's like, oh. But you have to remember, the primary thing is your environment. Do you live near the equator and you have humidity galore in your air and everything is humid all the time? You're not going to need to water as frequently as someone who might live in Arizona and has bone dry air. So you really got to play that number one factor into when you water. I learned the first year that I was watering them too often while they sat downstairs in my shaded living room with the drafts from the doors opened, and they weren't getting bright sun. They were just getting partial light that would come through the ceiling fan, and the leaves were growing. But I was overwatering them because they didn't have a chance to dry out. So I learned that in my environment in the Pacific Northwest, I get humidity, not that high, and I get light if I have a window that's in the right place. But I had to do three things. I had to add the artificial lights, I had to enclose my room and add humidifiers to it, and I had to change my media. I was using all moss on some of my phalaenopsises, and it stayed too soggy. And then I tried all bark on some of them, and it got soggy and acidic. It was just a fine mix that I had to learn, and you will too in your environment, how to mix things up to make it just right for your orchid. Now this plant came from my husband at one of his work plants, and it was burned on the windowsill when we got it, when he brought it home to me. And that will always be there, the burn and the too much light, and that's okay. She's got strong, healthy leaves as opposed to the other ones he's brought home. Yeah. And she has aerial roots. Those are happy. There's sticky stuff on my leaf and the roots, and they call that happy sap. That means she's happy and she's producing some little jelly-like droplets. And so in her roots, I put her in this container, and so I remember what the status of her roots look like. When you first get your orchid, you're not going to know what's in a dark container. So it's always encouraged that at some point within, after she flowers or when you bring her home, to check the status of those roots. So in this media, I have rocks at the bottom to absorb space. And then later, if her roots grow super long, I can remove those rocks. And I have bark, perlite, charcoal, and just smidges of sphagnum moss, and then the rocks. And she is happy. And because she's in this room with the lights, I got 3 or 4 fans going on, the ceiling fan, a couple on each shelf, the window is open for fresh air. I am finding that my big phalaenopsises that have healthy roots, you got to make sure they have the healthy roots to start with, in the mostly bark mix, will need water at least every 4 days. That's just what I'm finding. Now the miniature phalaenopsises, the little guys, they like water frequently. Almost, they don't even, in my environment, they don't really want to dry out. Now Mama gave me this one after she flowered. She sends them to me and she says, take care of it. So Mama, this is your little one that you gave me, and it is in bark, rocks, and a little bit of sphagnum moss for moisture. But I have to water her almost every 2 days or 3 days. And look at that little new root taken off, Mom. But if she was in all sphagnum moss, she probably would stay wet a little bit longer, and I can make it to 4 days in this environment. But the minis, I'm finding the mini phalaenopsis, when you go to the store, you have the grand ones like Lorraine up there, and then you have the smaller ones that have littler flowers that bud off. Those are the minis. And they like moisture a little bit more in quantity than the big guys. So don't forget to check on your little guys, and some people think, oh, once a week I'm going to water them and that'll be good. But the little guys might need it more frequently. So she's going to get a drink, And this one's gonna get a small drink, not a dousing, because about a week ago I did give her a big dousing, but it's about the 4th day now, so I'll just give her a little bit more. And to my new orchid growers who watch this video, you're new and you have not ventured very far into the Phalaenopsis world. Remember, please, that they do not want any water in that middle section, the crown. It burrows underneath and just sits there and begins to rot your plant. So try to use a fine pointed watering container, or even better yet, fill up this with water and just place her in to soak for a little bit. That would be the best. But if she does get wet, get a Q-tip or a tissue and make a point out of it and try to soak up as much of that as possible. There's so many more things I could talk about in my orchid room today, but I am gonna quit at this stopping point and say thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a subscriber to my page, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I am rolling into my 1-year anniversary on Sunday for making videos, and my goal was to get to 300 in 1 year. And if I can get to 300 subscribers, great. If not, I am very thankful for the amount of subscribers and viewers that I have presently, because it's not about the numbers, it's about the relationships. And with that, I say goodbye and have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye bye.